Well, welcome to the morning show. It's Saturday, the 14th of April, and I'm Biola Alabi. Today marks 4 years since 276 of our daughters, sisters, nieces, and fellow citizens were abducted at the government girls' secondary school in Chibok, Borno State, by Boko Haram terrorists. While several of them escaped and others were released based on negotiations with the federal government, 112 of the girls remain with the insurgents as I speak. Joining me this morning is Aisha Mohammed Oyebode, co-founder of Bring Back Our Girls, to discuss the journey of the recovery of the girls 4 years later. After which, I'll be speaking with Moyo Ogunseinde, architect and creative brand designer of recreational center Upbeat. And then Moji Aina of Magic Moji will be casting some confectionery spell on us. Stay tuned. My first guest, Aisha Mohammed Oyebode, is the co-founder of Bring Back Our Girls, a civil society group working tirelessly day and night to ensure the missing Chibok girls are returned safely. 4 years on, they are still advocating like never before. Welcome to the morning show, Aisha. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank
you. It's 4 years. It is bittersweet because over half of the girls have been released. Over half of them have also gone to have very fulfilling and rewarding lives. But there are still 112 girls missing. As the co-founder of Bring Back Our Girls, how are you feeling today?
Really despondent. I didn't think that 4 years later, we'd still be talking about the release of the Chibok girls. And although if you look at the general numbers, you can think that more than half have been released, but in fact, not really. Because when it happened on the 14th of April 2014, the first 57 just escaped. They actually didn't make it. Well, if they did, to the fringes of Sambisa, they were not there for for very long. So 219 girls were the actual girls who were taken into Sambisa by Boko Haram. And the first girl didn't come out until after 2 years. 4 years later, we have 107 of those out, but 112. So we actually have more girls in Sambisa with Boko Haram that have actually come out. And I think it's very important for people to understand that statistic, because most people think, oh, some girls have come out, a large number have come out, and our job is done. No, our job has just started. So it's, I think it's really sad. And then, of course, you know about Dapchi. That happened less than 2 months ago. And we thought, we haven't learned any lessons from Chibok. How is it possible? I mean, this is a crime, as far as I'm concerned, against our nation, against humanity, against all women. How is it possible that terrorists can go into schools and pick up girls, at will? And what is even more unfortunate is that it appears that some of the 2 kidnappings were actually opportunistic. They didn't go in looking for girls, which is even more demoralizing. So they went in looking for food, they went in looking for supplies, and it was easier to cart away women, to cart away girls. It just doesn't make any sense. So which means that we're not protecting them enough.
So I want to stick to Chibok girls for a minute before we go into Dapchi. So it's been 4 years. It's important to continue to keep this story alive. It's important to continue to get parents to be part of this story. How does Bring Back Our Girls work with parents to keep them optimistic and encouraged and hopeful? How are you able to do that work?
Well, it's difficult, and the anniversaries are particularly difficult for them. So, but what we try and do is we continue to engage them. We continue to talk to them. We continue to give them hope. And also by advocating for them. So, we are there more often than not, their bridge with government, with those in authority. We are insisting on there should be more communication, more information. And then at the end of the day, they know that we are working hard to to see to it that their girls are found and rescued. So that's important. Like when, and you know, the two are linked. When Dapchi happened, one of the things we did was to encourage the parents. Say, look, you know, you need, the Chibok parents, you need to go to Dapchi. These people have just encountered what you encountered 4 years ago. You need to go and, you know, counsel them, give them words of hope. So it was actually auspicious because it was whilst they were in Dapchi that the Dapchi girls were returned,
yes.
which was a good thing. But the other side of it is that they've waited much longer. Their daughters have been away for 4 years. Yes, the Dapchi girls were away for 2 months. But, you know, my view is that one day longer, any day longer, with insurgents and terror is way too long.
So, I mean, I want to also talk about the Chibok girls that have been released, that are out there. I mean, they've been sort of done in tranches. What life are some of them having now? Can you tell us about what's happening with some of the girls and how you have worked, how are they being reintegrated into society?
So one of the key things that we've insisted on is to make sure that the girls do not you know, become disadvantaged because they were taken midway through their education. So one, we are emphasizing the importance of the girls being able to go back to school, even though some of them have come back much older than when they went. So that's one thing that's really important. So majority of them are in school, which is a good thing. I mean, the other side of it is that it's actually then thrown the spotlight on how bad the quality of education in Nigeria is anyway, particularly in northern Nigeria. So we're having to work extremely hard, much harder than we would normally have to, just to make sure that they're able to reach a much higher standard of education. But maybe the silver lining of this would be that the girls will probably end up much better than they would have had it not happened in terms of the quality of the education that we're insisting that they get right now. So that's one thing that we're doing. The other thing is that we're working, you know, with them psychologically. And one of the things that, you know, we insist on is that the parents need to be integrated as part of their care because that helps the healing. So it's one of the things that's been happening. So the ones that are in Yola, you know, some are in the US and so on. So we try and make sure that the parents continue to remain in touch with them. They remain in touch with their parents. The third thing that we're dealing with, which, you know, it's interesting because for a while I didn't even understand the extent of it, is the stigma. There's a lot of stigma attached to this. It's really incredible. The stigma attached to those who've returned, the stigma for those who have not returned, you know, and so that also is what we're working with. We're beginning to see elements of violence against some of the not the ones that are in school, but, you know, a few of the girls didn't go back to school. They chose to stay behind in their communities. So that is one thing that we're having to really work against is the stigma.
So for the girls that haven't gone back to school, what are they doing? What have they been able to do?
So there are not many, at least in terms of the, out of the 107, the ones that haven't gone back to school, well, they're working in the communities. You know, it's a community of farmers, so they're farming, and we're still trying to encourage them to see if we can get them back into school. But I think, so there's one especially who's been married, and when she came back, not long after she came back, so she went to Sambisa pregnant, had her first child, then she came back, she got pregnant again, and so she's been working on the farm and so on. So those are the kind of things that they do.
So one of the things that I would like to find out from you is at the beginning of this movement and when everything was still fresh, there were so many global partners. I mean, so many global voices that were lent to this cause. How is that, and what is the status of that global community? And then also, I mean, when this organization started, it was really just to sort of amplify the voices of the parents.
Yes.
But you've really had to become a real organization in the last 4 years.
Yes.
What has that been like for the team, and what are you guys doing? But the first thing is, how are global voices still being part of this conversation?
Okay, so I mean, to be honest, I think the global amplification was very important at that time. You know, we understood that our message had to go out for it to come back in, for us to be listened to. And so that was definitely important. And so it's something that, we are we're very excited about then, and we're really pleased about. But one of the things I also say, though, to the global voices, organizations, and so on that supported it, we need to go beyond symbolism. A hashtag alone is not going to do it. We recognize, yes, that the hashtag at that time was important, but what we're talking about now are girls' lives. And people need to begin to see these as individuals. You see, the problem when you start to talk about numbers is that it's very easy to forget the human beings behind the numbers. You forget the girls behind the numbers. You forget the parents behind the numbers. You forget the communities behind the numbers. But we need to go beyond the numbers and say, these are human lives that are being affected. What do you say to a mother whose daughter has been with Boko Haram for 4 years? What do you tell her? How do you begin to... So we need to really understand what we're talking about and begin to... And so we need more of those voices. They need to be louder, but also they need to now start thinking about ways in which they can actively support this movement. Whether it's in putting pressure on the international bodies, putting more pressure on our governments, and not just the Nigerian government. I'm talking about the whole of the Lake Chad Basin, because that's where Boko Haram operates. And then also beginning to sort of, understand that this whole terrorism phenomenon is part of a global one. And but the impact that it's having on our girls, is even more tragic, because apart from, the Chibok girls and the kidnappings, one of the things that Boko Haram is known for is for the use of the largest number of women and girls as suicide bombers in the entire history of the world. Now, this is a phenomenon that we cannot understand. And so we need to do something about it.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the organization behind and really how this has affected girls' education. We'll be back after this quick break. Welcome back to the morning show with me, Biola Alabi. I'm in the studio now with Aisha Mohammed Oyebode, who is a co-founder of Bring Back Our Girls, to talk about what is going on with the movement and the Chibok girls on the 4th anniversary. So thank you, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
One of the things I wanted to talk about is with the Chibok girls, with the Dapchi girls, a lot of this ties into the overall gender issue that we tend to face in Nigeria. And I just want to share some data with you and how that is relevant to this. According to the UNICEF, sexual abuse in 2015, 1 out of 4 and 1 out of 10 boys in Nigeria had experienced sexual violence before the age of 18. By the survey by Positive Action for Treatment Access, over 31.4% of girls there said that their first encounter had been rape or forced sex of some kind. Another thing that we know is 6 out of 10 children in Nigeria experience emotional, physical, or sexual abuse before the age of 18. We also know that Nigeria has one of the highest out of school children in the world. All these things, and you look at the fact that girls are being abducted, people are afraid to send girls to schools. Schools have now become a place of danger rather than a place of learning. How do we engage with people in those areas in which schools have now become symbols of fear?
You see, it's one of the things, and actually I'm really happy that you shared the statistics. When we started the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, people were like, why are you bringing this issue into our sitting room? This is happening in northeastern Nigeria. It's too far away from us, and, this is a problem that we would rather not deal with. But what a lot of people don't understand is that this problem is pervasive. What you've just said is that 1 in 3 girls has had a violent sexual encounter, before 18. That is frightening, And so, yes, the Chibok girls, we need to deal with their situation literally, but also metaphorically, because what they represent, like you say, is a country...
A culture of violence.
A culture of violence, and a country where children cannot be safe at school.
And a culture where girls are seen as prey.
Yes, exactly. You know, and that is, you know, one of also the other issues is that is Boko Haram's violence reflecting some of the violence that's already endemic in our society? It's a difficult question, but we need to ask ourselves. You know, if we're talking about this kind of violence against women, then we need to turn inwards and begin to see what it is that we are also doing wrong. That doesn't excuse it, that does not make it acceptable, but what it does is that if we want lasting solutions, we need to be real and we need to be realistic. And you're right, schools have become a place of fear. You know, it's taken, if you look at also, UNICEF has also released education statistics. You know, Nigeria has one of the highest number of out-of-school children. Well, most of them are in northern Nigeria, that's number one. Most of them are girls. We must have the highest rate of illiteracy for girls above the age of 15 in northern Nigeria. So already we have a lot of cultural issues that mitigate against girls going to school. Then you now have terrorism. So what do we do? Are we going to produce, you know, generations and generations of illiterate girls? You understand? So already these are girls that have very little agency, have very little power over themselves, and then you then compound it with no education whatsoever. What are we doing to women and girls in our society? This is what we need to think about.
So as Bring Back Our Girls has started with, the Chibok Girls was the genesis of this organization. Yes. But it obviously seems that your purview has expanded and really more as an advocacy group around education. And we've just put up some education statistics on what you were talking about. Yes. Recent statistics in northern Nigeria, literacy is on average less than 35% in the best performing states, and the average is around 43%. Overall, the average female literacy level in the region is less than 40%. This simply means that only 2 out of 5 women can read and write. These are numbers that are very scary. Yeah. And as you advocate now for girls and for women, what does that mean? What do we see? What do we see as the future of Bring Back Our Girls and the movement and the advocacy work that you're doing? Okay, so in fact, let me just even make it more frightening. The first one that was read out, it means that in some parts of Nigeria, 75% of the children have not seen the inside of a formal classroom. What are we doing? So, you know, we needed to go beyond looking at the abduction of the Chibok girls, and we needed to see what the wider impact of this abduction is. So we're looking at safe schools, we're looking at safety in schools. Those are some of the areas in which, and more importantly, we're looking at the protection of the vulnerable, especially girls in our society. Girls should have the right to go to school and not be afraid to go to school. You know, I think that education, you know, girl-child education is actually a human right. And not allowing girls to go to school is an abuse of their human right. And it contravenes almost every provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So, you know, the levels that we're looking at. And so what we need to do is to see how do we begin to claw back some of this, even with the challenges that we see with terrorism. How do we begin to ensure that girls must go back to school? And so one of the things that in communities where it's not safe for girls to go to school, we're encouraging that girls be moved to other communities where they can go to school. But we also are now insisting that government has to provide security. Our schools must be safe. Well, because, you know... I know we're running out of time, and one of the things I wanted to talk about was the fact that today we're, across the continent, we're celebrating the life of an African icon who was herself a social worker, actually, and had dedicated a lot of her work to helping women and actually working with women in social services. As Winnie Mandela is laid to rest, I would like you to say, you know, if you think of in 50 years, where Nigeria is going to be the 3rd most populous country in the world, what do you want the global world to think about when they think of strong African women? And how do we make sure that the legacy of people like Winnie Mandela continues to stay with us as strong African women, and that the next generation of African women are educated, are empowered, are not raped, are safe in our societies and in our schools?
You know, I'm so glad that the legacy of Winnie Mandela is actually being acknowledged, because I think it was one of the things that was quite unfortunate, I believe, and a lot of women feel the same way. And with hindsight, I wonder whether we could have done more to have stood up for her at that time, and we didn't. But that notwithstanding, her legacy is being recognized. I think what we need to be thinking about is how do we produce more Winnie Mandelas from amongst us, women that are strong, that are powerful, and that spoke out against violence, that spoke out against institutionalized racism. You know, those are the kind of women that we should look at so that they are not in the minority. In 50 years, I want to see women like Winnie Mandela as the majority.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking about this critical issue, but really talking about the fact that the Chibok girls' abduction can be a catalyst for us having a wider conversation in our communities about violence against women and also about the illiteracy rate of women in the North, but also across the country. Thank you so much for doing the work you do. We'll keep praying for the girls to come back and for them to be safe. So,
thank you.
That's it for now. We'll be back with some of our other guests, and we'll be speaking to the award-winning architect Moyo Ogunseinde. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Arise News. You're watching The Morning Show with me, Biola Alabi. Moyo Ogunseinde is a multiple award-winning architect, product designer, and real estate entrepreneur with over 18 years experience. She's the creative brand designer of Upbeat, the first purpose-built trampoline and recreation park in West Africa, created out of the need to offer families and communities alternative lifestyle spaces to connect. She also designed and project managed one of Lagos's hotels, the Radisson Blu Anchorage Hotel in Victoria Island. Such a pleasure to have you on the show, Moyo.
Thank you for being here.
Thank
you for having me.
So we're celebrating today the life of Winnie Mandela, the freedom fighter. She was a liberator. And I've been trying to understand what she means to different women, because to everyone she means something different to them. What does she mean to you, and how have you seen her work in just the context of Africa and the liberating Africans? And you can see this is her funeral is live on the screen.
It's, I mean, you know, I'm a real estate developer, I'm an architect, and I work in a male-dominated environment. So having role models that actually are women that are standing in the midst of a male-dominated environment is so important. It's like a role model to know that you're not alone. You can do it. You can do it to a very high level. You can set an example, and you can speak for yourself. You don't need others to speak for you. I think it's really important, that sense of agency you get as a result of having someone to look up to is just unbelievable.
Oh, and it looks like they're actually doing a song in her memory right now. Let's see. Oh, her grandchild is going to speak now, so let's cut to that quickly.
It is in times like these that I experience the reality that the shoes I have to put on are truly big. I tried to get the owner thereof, my father, as well as to carry out this mammoth task himself in vain. My application in terms of Section 44, subsection 1 of the Correctional Services Act 111 of 1998 was disapproved. The judiciary still has to interpret the said act in relation to the provisions of the circular I was referred to. Branch Incarceration and Correction Circular 7 of 2017, such reads: compassionate leave is granted for attendance of funerals. Such concession is granted when it comes to a direct family member, father, mother, brother, sister, grandfather, and grandmother. This is one of the rare gatherings where all arms of government are present under one roof. This is no ordinary day. Please, fellow leaders, help me to understand what is it to be referred to a person, one, who takes a child and siblings under her roof, feed, clothes them, among other things.
Thank you. That was Winnie Mandela's grandson speaking, and he was talking actually about the importance of family. So I want to jump right in and actually talk about the Upbeat Center, because that is your newest and latest project. Why was it important to create a place where families could connect?
It was so important because the whole community, as we know it, is sort of not where it was before. It's falling apart. And as an architect, as a developer, we wanted to create a space that was different from what was out there, a space that could engage the community, a space that people could get fit, a space they could have fun. And we just thought, okay, yes, there was a recession, other markets, I mean, it was also an opportunity, other things aren't moving. But what do the customers need? They actually wanted a community space. So Upbeat Center is a space that's actually addressing what the community needs. The other form of real estate that was doing stuff was the Lekki Bridge. It was actually our competitor. And we said, oh, Lekki Bridge can have all the, all the action.
All the action.
So we said, why don't we create a space where it was safe? Our goals was to create somewhere that was fit, safe, innovative, and excellent space. And when you come to our space, you really feel you're anywhere in the world. And yeah, it was important that we just did that, and we believe we've actually just started to address the needs of the community. And it's just the beginning.
So the Upbeat Center has spaces for everyone in the family. So it could be a family day. I saw that we just saw on the screen that there's basketball, there's trampoline, there's gymnastics.
Yes, there is.
So tell me about gymnastics, because Nigeria is not something that you usually associate with gymnastics. Why do you like gymnastics?
I mean, I love gymnastics because my kids love gymnastics. It's a personal experience, and as a result of their love for gymnastics, I saw obvious benefits from them. Cognitive skills, self-esteem, and I said, why not extend that, my private passion, to my professional passion? And I work for a real estate company. I'm a director there, and we said, we need to do something for the community, and we put our heads together and we came up with this space. And we don't only address the needs for families, also corporates. We've had corporate team bonding sessions, and our greatest joy is after the team bonding sessions, the director or the CEO is like, we have to do this again. I didn't know this thing about this person. I wish I knew this person better. Thank you for making our day. So we've had at least 50 corporates come to us in the last 4 months. And
you've only been open for 4 months.
4 months, and every week, and that's really been encouraging for us. I mean, the fact that corporates don't have to go all the way out to Ogunseinde or out of town, they can do it right in the heart of Lagos. And what is exciting for us as well is that people from the mainland are like, oh, why does, the island have to get all the good stuff?
Yes.
We've had people from Abuja, why do we not get the good stuff? Yes. So there was an obvious need, and communities needed to be built, not just for Lekki, and it has to be built also in the mainland. So we're looking to go into the mainland and Abuja as well, and giving them the upbeat, vibe, really.
So, I mean, what you're doing, and a lot of your development tends to cater to a rising middle class. There's been really a debate about if Africa has a middle class, if there's a rising middle class, if there will be a middle class, there wasn't. All this data around the middle class and the growth of the middle class. How, as a company, did you guys make a decision to say, you see promise here and you're going to service that market? Or did you think, if we build it, they will come? Which one sort of came before the other? Or did it all happen at the same time?
Sort of. It was like, if we build it, they will come. The Nigerian middle class is there. Yes, the period we've been going through in the last 2 years, there's been a decline. But Nigerians have an interesting spending habit. We might be in a certain class C, market segment, but we spend like we're class B because we have certain aspirational values, and we really want to always go better, and we really want to do stuff for our families. We have this sense of celebration, we're aspirational. So even when we don't have, we push ourselves to have that sense of family, celebration, solace in this really difficult environment. So we're really speaking to that, and it is growing, and we believe in the next 1 to 2 years, as the economy totally turns the tide, it will come back on the rise, and you know, being there now, we will be remembered as one of the brands that stayed when the African brands that stayed when the market was going down, and it really is just the beginning of Nigerian brands recognizing that they can create brands for themselves. We don't have to franchise or from other countries. We can create brands that are lasting, they're enduring, and that the families want. For instance, I had a child, come to me and say, "Oh, my wish list, my Christmas wish list is to go to Upbeat, and second to go to London." I was like, "We want top."
You're before London.
I was like, that's fantastic. Or when we have parents that tell us, "Oh, we told them, they're not coming to Upbeat this weekend," and the whole house falls apart. So it just tells us we're doing something right. Tells us that there's need for more brands like us, and there's need for us to go deeper and that's why we're also having a corporate social responsibility, so that other families and corporates are not able to afford to come to our space can also be sponsored to come to our space. They can understand the benefit of leading a healthy lifestyle, call it Upbeat Project. They can understand the benefit of being fit, of having fun. It's also part of the sustainability development goals.
Sure.
Well-being and good health is really important. And if, as Nigerians, we can all strive towards that, we'll have less, less crime, less obesity, so many things.
And I mean, one of the biggest things for us is also our lifespan. I mean, Nigeria has one of the shortest lifespan projections in the world. And I mean, right now, in places like Japan, it's 80, and in Nigeria, it's almost half of that. So we do need to look at longevity. And as we start now, this is the time to start that.
Yes, definitely. And we've seen it. I mean, thankfully, thank God for social media.
Yes.
It's really helped change the mindset of Nigerians, and it's helped our business, of course.
Fantastic.
Because naturally people want to stay fit, they want to stay healthy, they want to have fun. So it's happening that social media is driving that, and having the infrastructure to actually enable that lifestyle is just fantastic. It's really,
so
really
as
good.
a real estate developer and as an architect, you're obviously navigating in a very male-dominated world.
Yeah.
What has it been like now, sort of doing this that is extremely, because your job is also very bottom line focused. So now you're doing something that's very family focused. How do you put the bottom line before? How do you manage that? Because when you're doing a hotel, it's very clear. This is a bottom line business. When you're doing tower, real estate, sort of a apartment tower, it's once again very clear. But it's a bit of a balance where you have to sort of find the right balance of saying, this is our bottom line, we have to make money. But this is also, we're creating a safe space to change the way people think. And because what you're doing is a lot of behavioral change,
definitely.
your bottom line has to be much more, there's a bigger long tail in how you get a return for your investment.
It's actually very similar to a hotel. It's when the business of hospitality, even if it's the Radisson Blu, which I designed, I managed, and
congratulations!
Yeah,
It's still one of the iconic locations that people go to.
Thank you. And even if it's Upbeat, I work in a company. It's called Raga Real Estate. We're a subsidiary of Honeywell Group, and the bottom line is really important to us. But as a company, what is important to us is giving back to society. So there is a balance. But if the bottom line is not met, we can't give back.
All right, so we're going to wrap up now, but tell people what they can come and do at Upbeat.
Yes, Upbeat. Upbeat, you can jump, you can play, you can shop, you can eat, you can engage with your families, your friends. We're based in Lekki Phase 1, and we're open all throughout the week except for Mondays. And we're ready to receive everyone. And we're coming to the mainland. We're coming all over Nigeria and Africa real soon. So please come.
Yes.
Looking forward to having you.
I wish you all the best. And I think it's so important to create lifestyle brands that really can create safe spaces for us. We were just talking about creating more safe spaces for children. So thank you and best of luck.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's time now for a short break. Stay tuned, because when we return, we'll be talking sweet treats with Moji Aina. Don't go away. Welcome back. This is Arise News Channel. You're watching the morning show with me, Biola Alabi. Moji Aina is the founder of a confectionery company, Moji Magic. Her love affair with all things sweet started at a very young age when boredom led to baking cakes with her siblings. She began her confectionery journey as a business in 2009 when she couldn't find her perfect job after she moved back home. 9 years down the line, in addition to baking, she has launched a Nigerian bean-to-bar chocolate company called Pod Chocolates, where she uses locally sourced cocoa beans from various regions around Nigeria and turns them into the most luxurious, mouth-watering, silky smooth chocolates. Welcome to the show, Moji.
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone is perked up now because they want to hear about all this chocolate you're offering.
Yes.
But before we go there, today we're celebrating the life of an African icon, Winnie Mandela. And I've been asking women, what did she mean to them? What does it mean to have such a strong African icon? And how can we keep strong women's memories alive?
I think when you think of Winnie Mandela, the first thing that comes to mind is strength and support. Throughout the time Mandela was in prison, she was there campaigning and just being like a backbone. And I think for me, that is kind of like the memory I want to hold onto, like just being supportive and being able to support other people, even in my entrepreneurial journey, being a good support system for other women coming up as well.
Oh, fantastic. So we'll dedicate that to Winnie today, supporting other women.
Yes.
So now it's important for us to have some serious talk about all the stuff you do.
Yes.
But tell me, I mean, you come from pensions, actuaries. I mean, we're talking about calculating how much money people need after they're dead. How do you end up like baking? And what is baking? What was baking to you, and how did it sort of help you sort of transition throughout your days?
So when we were younger and we were bored, we would just come together and bake, my siblings and I. And I kind of just loved baking. I like sweet things, so I just loved the whole process of baking and, you know, watching the cake rise in the oven and then just consuming it. So when I was getting married, I wanted chocolates at my wedding. And I searched, and I couldn't find anyone in Nigeria making chocolates.
Really?
Yes. So I went to learn how to make chocolates. And I had chocolates at my wedding. And then I thought, I really enjoyed the chocolate class. I think this is something I can do. So I had a 10-year plan. I was like, I'm going to work for 10 years in my pensions, save some money, and then start doing chocolates. And then I moved back to Nigeria and I couldn't find a job. That was kind of the time of the Great Recession. And so I started doing chocolates, but I think the Nigerian market wasn't very ready at that time. I think I was ahead of my time. So the chocolates were not moving as quickly as I wanted them to. And so I decided, oh, I love baking as well. I'm going to start making cupcakes because I love variety. When I get a cake, I don't want just vanilla or just chocolate. I want a whole bunch of different flavors.
Can I tell you this? I always feel like the pressure of a cake is even too much. Sometimes when you get a cake, you don't want to cut into it.
Yes.
Because it also looks so beautiful. But with a cupcake, it's almost like you have like 24 mini cakes.
Yes, exactly. And then you can choose to share or not to share.
But, okay, so I am so excited about the branding. I feel like this branding you've taken the time to develop the brand, you've taken the time to develop the name, you've taken the time to make sure that this is not just a local brand, but it is a local brand that can be global, that can sit anywhere. And I'm looking at the packaging of your chocolate. And the reason why is because packaging is a big reason why I choose chocolate. So it depends on I look at the packaging for chocolate. If I like the packaging, you are going to get it. I am a customer. So I am going to show people some of these amazing packaging around this. And you're going to tell us what this is.
Okay.
So it's pod chocolates.
Yes.
And this is dark chocolate.
Yes.
And what I love about this is like this is a Lagos symbol.
Yes,
right? This is sort of like the three wise men.
Exactly.
Ooh, I remember, I was worried I was going to get that wrong. So tell us about this and why you chose this for this particular package.
So what we don't want to just make chocolate. We also want to educate people about the different interesting things we have in Nigeria. It's not just the Lagos thing, it's the whole of Nigeria. And every single one of our boxes is going to have a symbol of something, a tourist attraction or a popular place in Nigeria. So this, we have the Three Wise Men. We have the National Theatre, as well.
That's our Zingy Zobo.
Which is like our most popular flavor.
I can see.
It's very
hibiscus.
unusual.
It has chocolate, dried pineapple pieces. Okay. No one, I'm not sharing. I can see people looking. And then you have coconut white chocolate.
Because we do vegan as well.
Okay.
So those that are not able to take milk, we have vegan chocolate where we use coconut milk for them. The Zingy Zobo is vegan as well because it doesn't contain any milk powder in it.
And then we have this.
Milk chocolate.
Which I love the colors.
Thank you. That is the popular Lekki Bridge, obviously, that has become a tourist attraction of some sort.
I can be a hand model. I can model these. Come on, guys, get this. So let me ask you this. I mean, chocolate, globally, the way we eat chocolate and the way we consume chocolate is a challenge on the African continent because Africans consume a lot of byproduct of chocolate, but we produce cocoa that ends up being chocolate, but we're not involved in the value chain. How challenging was that? I mean, when you started to do your research around chocolate and the value chain of chocolate, what were some of the most disturbing things that you discovered?
I think one of the most difficult things, which you would find very surprising, was how difficult it was to actually get cocoa. Because as much as we grow it, almost all the cocoa we grow is exported. So I found it very difficult trying to find someone to sell cocoa in a small quantity because obviously I have to do my research first. I can't buy 20 tons. You know, so finding the cocoa, I had to go to Ondo and meet different people. They have different.
Should have told me. I would have told you. I will show you where my people were. That's what my people do in Ondo State.
It's not also just the cocoa, it's how it's fermented, how it's dried, because all those things affect the flavor of the chocolate. So if it's not fermented properly or if it's not dried properly, then your chocolate is not going to have that flavor that you really want to bring out of the cocoa bean.
And so how do you get your cocoa beans now?
So I get it from Ondo now. I have a source in Ondo. At the moment,
were they like surprised, like, what do you need cocoa for?
Yes, they were like, why? Like, why do you want to make chocolate? Because the machinery is so expensive to buy. And so they were like, why do you want to make chocolate in Nigeria?
Okay, so I love everything you have. Where can people get these things and how can people start to patronize you and make sure that we get more and more of our own local cocoa into the value chain of chocolate?
We have an Instagram page, which is @podchocolates.
Okay.
At the moment, that's where you can buy. We're looking at getting into the supermarkets. We're trying to get our NAFDAC number as well. So very soon, you will see them in the closest
And then what do you have here? Because baked goods are always our favorite here. So we have...
We're launching a line of gourmet popcorn as well, which is under the Moji Magic brand. We have our cookies, we have our cupcakes, and we have a special Nigeria cookie that we do to promote our culture, to promote Nigeria.
Ataro doing it or something like that. Well, we have to go, but I love what you're doing, and I will also be taking some stuff home with me.
Yes.
This brings us to the end of this morning show. Thank you for being here, Moji. Thank you to the rest of my guests for joining me. Have a great weekend and a sweet, sweet weekend while you're at it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.